Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again. It's time for the J. Craig Podcast. Playing on headphones near you.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the J. Craig Podcast. I'm Jay. If you're not familiar, we are a movie entertainment podcast, and we're glad you're here, so thank you for being here. I'm sitting across from an old friend of mine. He was on our podcast not long ago for Needle Drop versus Score, and we had so much fun talking about that topic. We wanted to have it again, so I'm sitting across from my main man, Robert Ericksen.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
How you doing?
Yeah, good, Jay. Good to be on again. Welcome to mi casa.
Well, that's what I want to say is thank you for inviting me in your home. It's good to see you because I haven't seen you in, about 8 years?
Yeah.
So it's been a while.
Yes, it has been 8 years. We determined that, last night.
So the fact that we're sitting across from each other, having a good time, we already had a good time. But now we're getting ready to record a podcast.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, all right, Rob, I know we talked about the music part of it, right? I kind of want to continue that, don't you? There's a couple things that we kind of...
Yeah.
So what do you want to do on that regard?
Well, we'll continue a little bit. I didn't really have too much of an agenda, but I thought that there were some good points that we talked about last time that I think we're just going to kind of extrapolate in.
Okay.
I know that one thing, walking away from that conversation and listening back, we had discussed sound design, and it was like, it's something that's a little out of our realm. Okay. We know what it is, you know, but immediately after that, I think we both went our own way, unbeknownst to each other, because I'm constantly doing synthesis and exploring sounds in my studio, and you kind of looked into it, I think, on your own too, and we kind of met back up. We're like, maybe we got a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, we do.
So let's deep dive into that.
Okay,
I think more sound design. I think that Is that where we're going?
Yeah,
here?
exactly. Yeah. So we're definitely going to touch on what we talked about before because they go together, right? Sound design is music's a part of that, right? You have to have the music that sets up the emotion, sets up the tension, sets up the mood, whatever the case may be. So that's a part of it, but there's a step further. That's sound design without not the music, but the sounds, everything you hear. Yeah. And so while we talked about this in one way, shape, or form, let's deeper dive into that a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think what I also want towards the end of this, if this all goes the way we think it's going to go, I have kind of a plan here.
Okay.
Right.
Good. Well, that's good. We're not running amok here.
Right.
Okay.
So we'll start with the movie to sound design part of it, movie wise. But then I want to dive into the video game aspect of that.
Oh yeah.
Because they're very cinematic these days, right? And they have been for quite a few years now. But the fact that sound design is so critical to a video game, that I think that's a good component of this conversation. So we have a couple of cool things to talk about here, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool. All right, so let's dive into what we did last time. We talked about the difference in music, right? That you can have the AC/DC needle drop,
right?
Or you can have the score.
More thematic, right. I think we were talking about genres.
Yeah.
And then the feels. These are all the takeaway points. We were doing a little bit of a recap here. These are all takeaway points from our last podcast, which is available.
I forgot what episode number it is, but a couple months back, Needle drop versus score.
Needle drop versus score, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So.
And the ultimate thing is, when we were talking about this earlier today, is you can use so many different types of music for the same scene, and it produces something different. So when you're talking about why you're doing the particular music, whether you're choosing a needle drop or making a score, is you're trying to get an emotional reaction.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. And
so, but what is that? The director, the writer, they have to figure out what they're trying to do there and what they want. But you can have a scene and make it 5 different ways.
You could do that, yeah. And for example, let's say you have just a scene where you're like, okay, this is a character and he's out walking on a road, on the side of a road. Okay. Well, that right there has a lot of questions. Why is he walking on the side of the road?
Right.
So, how about instead of flashing words across the screen or having the guy talk to himself or some other god-awful delivery vehicle for the plot in movies or a crutch or whatever they call it, let's have the music do a little talking here.
Right.
So how do we do that? Well, as a musician, we talk about, obviously, frequencies and pitches and notes. Okay, these are nuts and bolts here. Strap on your seatbelt, folks. We're going to go a little bit of music theory here. It should take only a few minutes. But we talk about intervals in music, right? You talk about things
that's the spacing of time, intervals?
Spacing of time, right. Interval or spacing of distance of pitch.
Oh.
So say it's something like you look at your pantry and you have the different shelves, right? You have on the low shelf and the medium shelf, and you're going up in shelves, right? Okay. So think of each box in a compartment as being a shelf of frequency.
All right.
And these are all divided up into 12 for our, whatever they call Western music, right? There's 12 notes that's on a piano, and then it repeats, right? So they have these 12 different things. So within a space from, let's say, on a scale from 1 to 12. Let's say.
Okay.
Right? 1 being where we, start, and 12 being where we end. And this can either be, you guys can think of it as a line, or you can think of it as a circle, because really you're coming back to the same note.
Right.
You repeat over and over again. You know how the alphabet goes to Z.
Right.
Well, music only goes to, B or whatever.
Right.
A to B or C, and then it repeats. And G, there is no H, for example. So there's only 12 notes, really.
Okay.
There's sharps and flats, and okay. So an interval is the space between 1 and the next number.
All right.
If I say 2, that's going to be right next to it, isn't it? Because 2 comes right after 1.
Right.
If I say 5 or 8, that's a little bit later. So that interval is a longer interval.
Right.
And so what you get with music, and a lot of these genres are defined by these intervals. It's a minor interval, which is a minor third. That's a certain distance. And then if you actually shorten that distance a little bit, it becomes a major third.
What does a minor and a major mean, though, when it comes to the use of it? Like, what does that produce?
It produces a feel. Right.
Okay.
And minor can sometimes a lot more mean a sad feel, right? And a major can mean more of a happy feel. These are just general broad strokes, folks.
Right.
And then there's other intervals like minor 6, which are like contemplation intervals. And these are, say, like 10 distances away. So large intervals can set up things like curiosity and like optimism. Like, I don't know what's going to happen next. Ooh. So now he's on the side of the road and I'm playing minor 6 and I'm doing things like that.
Okay.
And trying to make large intervals and a lot of space. And this isn't a fast song. It's probably a slow song.
Right.
So you're thinking, oh, maybe he got fired from a job or something not necessarily happy happened. Because this isn't a very happy thing I'm doing musically. Or if I'm doing minor thirds. Let's put into a horror genre now. Maybe this is a slasher film, and he's the next victim of an attack.
Okay.
So impending doom, those are like intervals that are right next to each other. So a 1 and a 2, right?
Okay.
Or a 3 and a 4, right next to each other. And you can do these little clusters of notes that are next to each other. I wish I had a piano to honestly just play it for you guys to sample it. Maybe we can insert that later, and I can show you a little bit of feels on my piano or something. But so that's really the nuts and bolts, and I wanted to touch on that because last time we just did general broad strokes and just kind of talked, it's the feels, and this is what you do, and this is what you do. But it wasn't for anyone listening. If you, I'm sure there's musicians listening. That's kind of what you can do, and that's just general broad strokes. Obviously, listen to your director. But he's just kind of, if the director's smart, he can know to ask the musician, hey, can you please tell a little bit of a story here?
Right.
Can you set this thing up because he's about to get hit by the car, or he's about to see his girlfriend he hasn't seen in 5 years.
Yeah, and the film, the composer has a script, or at least has seen the movie in its cut form. He has, or maybe just has a script in hand. Either way, however he's producing it, right? So he has the idea what the story is right there. Right, so if the writing's good, you can elicit what the feeling you need right there without even hearing from the director. But then the director might want a certain type of music for a certain scene. Like, I really want to pronounce this, just in case the audience isn't clue enough on it yet. Yeah. Like, now he's walking through the street and there's that somber tone, and if he's walking down the street, what are you trying to say? Is he going to be hit by a car? Is he contemplating life and that narrow search down the long winding road? There's all those different things that you're doing metaphorically. Yeah. And visually, but you're trying to also do it with the audibly aspect of it, and I think that's so cool that there's so many ways to work in what you want.
You can, and literally the same scene, even edited or cut the same way.
Exactly. Yeah, you can do the same scene, go front to end, different kind of ways. But I just love the fact that there's different emotions for different sounds. Like you're saying how there's different, like the way the grouping of the music is or the notes are, that it elicits a different kind of feel. Sure. Right, and I think that's from someone like me, that's why someone has to do my music, because I don't understand that. Yeah. I don't know what the notes are. I don't know. My hands don't work that way. I've never been taught how to play the piano, so I don't know.
It's just a skill that you learn. Right. I mean, essentially, because as I talk about this, I'm not tooting my own horn as a musician, but I think musicians are underrated because we're kind of like actors.
Yeah, for sure.
You're putting me in a role. You're saying, I want you to act like this way, Rob. I don't know. I don't know if I'm playing a happy song, sad song. I don't know. But you're telling me to go do something. Right. You're directing me. It's not exactly what to do. That's what actors do. Right. And I'm acting the scene out. I'm telling a story with my music. So, under the direction of a director. And
that's right. You're dictating something that the movie wants it to do, right? And that's what's great about it, is that it's not there by accident.
Right. Yes. Right. And that's the sound design thing. It's like, you heard something and it was on purpose.
Exactly.
There can't be too many
and the collaborative effort. I love that. Like, when you talk about Sergio Leone and Morricone, there's some kind of collaboration. I don't know what it was. I don't know if he was just, they sat down and had some wine and talked about what the story was about, and then he went off and made it, or if he had a screenplay, or if he was doing it to the actual work together cut. I don't know how they were doing that communication, but there's some kind of communication, obviously, right? Like, you have to know what that scene's supposed to elicit from the audience.
Right. And the first thing that comes to my mind when you say those is a minor key.
Oh, really?
I'd venture out and say that that's in D minor. I'd venture out to say that opening, down, 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 it sounds about D minor.
Okay.
You know? So, and guess what? It's not major. Is it sad? I wonder what's going on here.
Right.
Well, let's see here. The first thing he sees is a screenplay with he's in the middle of a freaking gang war.
Right.
I mean, long close. Everyone's got guns. No one's smiling. So he's like, okay, well, you know.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean? So a lot of times there's broad brushstrokes. It's like, do you want to go down the path of A or the path of V?
Right.
I mean, it's a lot easier. Let's say, like for my example, when I'm a dad, I'm talking to two different kids who, you know, one is 13 and one's 4. It's like there's two different conversations. And you usually know right off the bat where you're going with this. You know what I mean? And that's usually and what key is another good thing too to consider too. I can't go out there and say that certain keys are certain feelings too. Okay. I'm not that skilled. I'm sure they are, but I haven't really researched that much. I can't tell you that B flat minor over D minor is more sad. I mean, you can joke because in Spinal Tap, remember, he's sitting at his piano. He's like, "This is D minor. It's the saddest of all keys." You know, and it's like, "Oh, really?" I mean, it's such a qualitative statement that it's like, I mean, that's your opinion, dude. I mean, honestly. So, but I don't have a music degree, so I do what I do on the side.
You study music, man.
And I study
always studying it.
But I'm always just kind of very product oriented. Like, what is the purpose in the product? I don't just want to do it chord substitutions just for chord substitution's sake. Look, because I can do it, guys. I know everything about music. So I don't. I'm just like, what do you want? I'll try my best to make it feel that way. Right. You know, I mean, with my portfolio, it's not huge, but there's a lot of stuff out there you can research.
Yeah, absolutely.
For this.
Well, we are, in the age of YouTube, where you can find out anything you want, and people are out there have that information out there for you to listen to.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I just love the fact that there's so much going on behind the scenes when it comes to that particular song that you might not even hear. You might not even hear the music. Like No Country for Old Men. There's a score underneath it.
Yeah.
But if you watch it and you're listening for it, you're not hearing it.
Yeah.
It's like one of those weird things where there's music, but it's like so inaudible.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Huh.
But it adds something to it, whether it's just like something haunting behind that you can't even pick up on. And that's the whole purpose, right? We talked about this last time.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to notice it. You're not supposed to go sit there and stand up and say, "Oh, hey,
what's going on here?"
Oh, right, that music cued me in on something.
Yeah.
Did you get that cue?
Yeah.
No, it's that it elicits that response that's internal. You just you're just down that road. Whether it's somebody walking in a door and that pause on the door, what music is going to accompany that pause? Because is he not sure what's behind the door? Is he hesitant because is he excited and he can't wait? Or what is it about
is
that
it a triumphant crescendo where it's like, oh, it's a victorious thing. Right. Oh, this is his moment. He's finally got home and he's going to open the door. Right. Or it's like, there's so many ways just based on the sounds.
Right.
And those intervals, I'm telling you. And not only that, but the timbre, they call it the timbre of the instrument.
The timbre.
Is that, when you were working the cutoff knob on the synthesizer last night and you made it brighter, like, or then you go down underwater and up, I call it. That's why I call it underwater. The sound kind of comes up and it's more audible here. So that even that, like if it has a ominous undulating, I think I've seen movies where it's more of a like a rumble, like a undulating thing. That's more sinister. Okay. But if it's up high, I mean that could be another feel. You know what I mean? It could be sinister either way, but it's just like that's a little bit in your head, like wee 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 wee. You've had horror movies where it's up high, right? And then, but you don't really get things that are at the middle speaking level. Okay, that middle speaking level is the French horn. Okay, that's why French horn is the most popular instrument.
It is?
It's the most popular orchestral instrument in movie and film, and cello. Cello's the other one. They're very vocal. Their range is set around the vocal range of human beings.
Interesting.
And that's who's telling the story. And this is why we exist on this planet, why we're even having a podcast. Because of the human voice.
Interesting. Yes. So it really... It emotionally or just subconsciously, it ties to you better. You react to that better.
And why not?
Interesting.
These are the feels. And the harmonica.
The feels. It's all about the feels.
You ever heard of steel guitar?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a total amateur, but you've heard professionals, man. They make it cry. They make it sing. Right. And there's a reason why they probably don't play while the singer's singing. Because they're just going to totally clash. But when that singer backs off, and then the harp comes in, and then the vocal goes, and it's call and response, they call it. Okay. You can't have calling and responding at the same time.
It's just noise.
That's not a conversation.
Just noise, right?
Yeah. So like we're having a conversation, this is happening in music.
Right, okay.
Because you asked that question, you're like, how do you know it's all going on at the same time? Right. And I said, well, if there's 5 people talking, and all 5 people had the exact same voice, think like Neo being copy and pasted in the Matrix, and there's 5 of Neo's talking. Remember, he's talking himself on the TV screen. Right. It's crazy how they film that because it does sound like there's like 10 of them talking, but you don't know how many people are in the room when that happens. You're like, there could be 5, there could be 10. I don't know. They're all the exact same. But when you have 5 or 10 different people in the room talking, if you actually sit there and listen, you can pick out all 5 or 10 different voices. And why? Because most people have different voices.
Right.
Especially if I selected some younger people, older people,
Sure.
Hispanic versus Latino. I mean, everyone has a different, the way that they were brought up with their language and their voice box and their voice tract was developed. If they were a strong crier. I mean, I knew the minute Simon popped out, when my son popped out and he did his first cry, I was like, he's going to be loud like his dad. It was like, I mean, it was just loud. I was just like, you're going to be a loud kid. And that kid's loud. That kid can get loud.
Interesting.
So, you just know. And certain people have different vocal tracks. I mean, you're born with it. Golden throats, I mean, people have their, you can develop a lot of it, but...
you can work on it, but you have to have... Some of it is born with. You know, you can't cultivate it from nothing, right? It's got to be... there's got to be some talent in there, right?
Yeah. Anyway, it's a tangent. I'm just saying the human voice really speaks to people, and that Yo-Yo Ma with his cello scores on like Crouching Tiger, for example.
Right.
Oh my God, breathtaking score, dude. I mean, it's just why? Because it's right there in the vocal range. It's someone crying and singing. It's telling a story. You're listening to it.
Yeah,
even though you're probably not actively listening to it, you're probably looking at the cool scenes going on in the ancient China or whatever, you know. But in the background, you're like,
it's all together. Yeah. We talked about something off camera or off microphone a couple minutes ago about the open-ended ending of music.
Oh yeah.
And I wanted you to touch on that because I found that to be kind of interesting.
Thank you.
Open-ended ending.
Thank you. Okay. This has to do with something called resolution. And I talked about when you're starting at 1 and then going to the number 12 and it's a circle and you're resolving.
I mean, like a story.
A story. He starts out in his easy chair and then he gets up and goes on an adventure. And in the end, he came back to his easy chair and sat on the TV. What a nice ending, right? Happily ever after. It was the home that they started in or something, right? So that's resolution, and our body tries to crave resolution. It's why when you have a beef with someone, you don't sleep at night. You never go to bed angry because you're not resolved. You're not at peace, okay? So our naturally humans want to gravitate towards peace. Naturally, and that's what's messed up about war and everything, and all this conflict. I don't know. Some people get off on it, but we're a naturally empathetic species. We yawn when other people yawn. When someone hits their thumb on a hammer, we go, ooh, yeah. So we're naturally hardwired to feel these things. And say, so this is where you take advantage of as a musician. You try to go, oh, I know what I can do. Or even visually. If you show, blood splatter, for example, you're doing something with visual, and then that's got a reaction.
Especially what you're showing for that. Are you showing just the blood? Are you showing the person?
Right. So it's all about the feels and what you're delivering. And so if you're delivering an ending piece and you end on a suspended chord, I actually call them suspended chords in music, sus chord or whatever, and this is a second or a 9, or a 4, something that's ooh, and then it'll go, or 11, 13, you actually go off the scale over the 8 and you play these advanced chords on the piano where you're playing like 7 or 8 notes at a time. I'm not very good, but I know theory enough to know how to try to get there. I can do most of the part on guitar actually, but the point is, if you end it with a contemplative note that doesn't resolve, it gives this feeling of sinisterness or like, oh gosh, something's wrong or something. It sets something up is what I'm trying to say. And it leaves you with an uncomfortable feeling. So this would be a good thing for horror. This would be a good thing for suspense movies, thrillers, drama.
The want to know.
The want to know,
that suspenseful, like closing the door before, like Pulp Fiction, closing of the door before Marcellus is about to get raped.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And how the door closes as that thing's happening, and then you're like, oh.
Yeah.
Not that you want to see that, but you're just like, all of a sudden your mind is going like in a million places of what's happening visually.
Yeah.
And it's terrifying, right? Or anything that you don't see. If the door is being closed, and you hear something in the background.
And you're left to think, okay.
Right.
Yeah. And so you need a musical cue to go with that. So and that's contrary to the resolution I spoke of, which if you tied up with a bow, nice storybook ending, you can do that musically.
Absolutely, you want the audience to understand how to feel, right? But if you leave it, so you're saying if you leave it with like a suspenseful, like an open-ended, like it hasn't been concluded, it hasn't come to resolution.
And you're using some more of those suspended notes that are close to the tonic, like a 2 or a 4, something that's close. Then it's going to leave it like, oh, it's kind of unfinished. Wait a second, I want to resolve.
And that's for good for, like you said, suspenseful movies,
things, or even just a dramatic pause during the scene. It doesn't have to be concluding the scene.
Right.
But I just spoke of, like, there's ways to end. Like, if you end a blues song on the 4, sometimes you do that. Like, we'll probably do that tonight, okay? And I'll end up with dam-ba-doom, on the 4. It's like, oh, okay, that's different.
Right.
It didn't end on the 1. It didn't resolve back to home. So it was a little bit, okay, it's like a potato chip ending, okay?
Potato chip ending.
Okay, potato chip ending, okay.
Potato chip.
So good TV, I didn't coin this phrase, good TV is known as potato chip episodes, right?
Okay.
Like Ozark is the master of potato chip television.
Okay.
That's the reason why I binged the crap out of it.
Explain what that means.
Well, in the last 10 minutes of your 40-minute episode, something happens, some bombshell happens. Actually, sometimes the last 2 minutes, really.
Okay.
But it excels it into a bomb. Sorry, something goes off, and you're like, oh my gosh, this plot twist just happened. I have to watch another episode. Okay. I have to have more than just one. You can't just eat one. It lays. You can't have just one. So you watch the episode, and you're like, oh God, I'm so thirsty for another one. And then you watch it, and you really don't feel that feeling for the first 30 minutes of the next show. There's a lot of exposition. There's a lot of shots, a lot of stuff we're talking about, people walking around, what's going on. These are plots. Right? But then the twist happens at the end. It's always at the end.
Right. So it's like old serials where you kept coming back for more for the next week, the next movie.
If I was so inclined to make a record with a band, and I decided I'm going to go the 40-minute, 60-minute album thing, where this is a whole album, not a concept album. I mean, I'm so tired of people throwing that around. I'm just a record, man, that has some continuity to it. These songs are kind of, similar because, the band situation or situation in your life. I mean, it just, the band concept, and even people being collaborative. It doesn't have to be all, the one-person show. It can be, a band collaboration. So 5 different people's mindset at that time.
Right.
Rather than making an album full of singles. Like, that's what you get pop artists nowadays. It's 12 songs that are all just hits, and they're not really a lot of continuity. And they all resolve really nicely in a bow, but there's no, suspenseful potato chip ending. And that's what I'm getting at. When you set up these records, and you've heard, Led Zeppelin records and things like, Black Crowes do it really well, from song into other song.
Right.
And they blend. And so, you got, guys, we should end the one song on a suspended chord.
Because why?
Because we're going to have, God, I wish I could just say the names of the Zeppelin songs we're talking about. But anyway, then Immigrant Song's going to drop right after it.
Right.
So you're going to get your release and your satisfaction just in a few seconds. But bear with us for a second.
Right.
We're Led Zeppelin.
We're transitioning.
Yeah, we're the Beatles. We're taking you on a journey here.
Right.
So, and then anyone who aspires to be great obviously aspires to those 2 bands I said, or these directors, Hitchcock and all these directors.
Coppola,
I can name
Spielberg, whatever.
Yeah, these people who are just giants. Why are they giants? Because they know what they're doing.
Right.
And so
and they know either how to tell a story, how to elicit a response from an audience, and how to and as a director standpoint, you're trying to work in everything together, and that's the crazy part that I find, that movies are actually made. I can't believe they're made because of the collaborative effort between everybody, and how the director has to, tie everything up, make sure everyone's communicating on the same level, hopefully, and make sure that vision's being passed on to every department so they get the proper work, right? So you get the proper response from everything you're getting at, and sound's no different. And then, that's a good segue into just, making the sound, after the fact, like the Foley stuff.
Sure. There's so many things that go into sound. You're right. Between the ADR, which I just had to clarify from this morning. What is it again? ADR stands
Additional dialogue recording.
Additional dialogue recording, right. So I was confused, guys, because I thought that Foley and ADR is like the exact same thing, but it's not really. I mean, they're kind of done around the same time.
They're both in post, and they're both done to get the sound properly done, right? So Foley's but more like sound effects and walking, chewing.
Yeah, things dropping, pencil scratching,
dropping of the ice cubes into a glass.
Sure. So we'll call it sound effects or whatever.
Sound effects, sound design. Yeah, it's all the same. But the vocals are ADR. So and that's what it's crazy when you're talking about sound design or just movie making, is the sound part of it blows me away.
Yeah.
That you have so much has to be done after the fact. Yeah. Like, I don't know what the percentage is. I'm not going to try to pretend I know what I'm talking about exactly. I know a little bit about it, but the idea of additional dialogue recording after the fact, I think it's primarily all done after the fact. Like, they might record the sound,
right?
And they're going to record the sound, but they might not use it.
Scratch tracks or placeholders.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
This is what you said on set. This is the attitude you had. Listen to your own voice and try to
the cadence,
recreate the attitude.
Exactly,
yeah, that's right. That's right.
And then you're watching it and you're trying to make sure you get the words come out the same way, so you're not looking like you're subtitled. Right? You gotta make it.
Oh yeah, it's gotta
be. It's gotta be pitch perfect.
And that's the thing. I'd hate to be Mr. freaking Debbie Downer here, but it's like, you work so dang hard with these 60, 100 people. Also, it doesn't get noticed.
Yeah, I know, right?
Because if it doesn't get noticed, you've done a good job. Exactly. And then you're like, dang it. So people that do this, guys, I mean, everyone out there, and myself and Jay, I know Jay included, we do it for love. I mean, at the end of the day, if it's not going to get noticed, then why are you doing it? You're like, because that's what I was born to do, and I love doing it.
Yeah,
and, I could work for free on this job. And then that's when you're in the right profession.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to love what you do, man. And you're right. There's a lot of people who go unnoticed because of sound. There's so many parts being played there, right? And but I'm blown away by that fact that you have people recording stuff. So we're gonna go into sound design now, and the cool aspect of all the different little things about making sound work. But the ADR is interesting. I was kind of baffled how many times it's done after the fact and how it matches so well. And if it's done properly, you can't tell that they're not there. You might not, so you don't hear the wind blowing by. right? That's one reason. But the camera, like when you shoot it with an IMAX camera, everything's done afterwards.
Okay.
For sound-wise, because you can't hear shit.
Yeah.
It's so loud, you can't muffle the camera enough.
Yeah, they're just notoriously loud cameras.
Right.
Just,
yeah.
It sounds like a fire hydrant.
It's huge.
Hydrant's going.
It's a huge camera, you know.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. It's just big, right?
Yeah.
So it's gonna make noise. But with sound design, I love the fact that there's people like Ben Burtt who created their own sound effects, like by walking around and testing things and making noises and recording that and saying, "Oh, what is?"
So I don't know his name particularly, but is that the guy from Star Wars?
That's the guy from Star Wars.
Oh, okay. Because I saw when the first trilogy started coming out, I think you could watch special features or. Forgive me if I'm wrong. What did we do back before DVD? Like, how did we watch special features? Were they included on the cassettes? Because there's
not typically. Once in a while, you got like an additional thing on a cassette.
Like at the ending.
It all happened afterwards, man.
After
it was
DVD.
It was DVD.
You could click on bonus features and gag reels. You could never watch it. But I watched some documentary, and I swear it was before the age of DVD.
Okay.
But I learned about this guy.
A documentary that was on VHS.
He was tapping phone, really taut iron wires to get lightsaber sounds.
With that yellow band around it.
Yeah, the yellow band around. Yeah, I was like, I have those in my neighborhood. I never thought that you could make a otherworldly, laser sword sound with it.
But tell me that you didn't even do that before you even knew that he was using that.
Like,
I
kind of did.
We all did that.
Well, that sounds cool.
We make that noise and it's like, it sounds like a laser gun.
Yeah.
Sounds like Star Wars.
Well, we all put the ruler on the desk, went
right,
and then it goes up.
But you can utilize all those effects to make cool things,
that's
right?
true,
And Ben Burtt, actually, we talk about sound design. Ben Burtt is coined, I believe, as one of the first people to be called a sound designer.
Okay, like the title sound designer,
yes,
right?
Because he there's a mixer and the editor, sound mixer, sound editor, and this is like they started to combine them together, and so. I forgot who said it, but someone said you're in charge of every aspect of sound for the movie, whether it's dialogue, music, sound effects, everything that's sound is the sound designer's job.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why the ADR falls underneath that. That all has to be encompassed with that sound design. Mm-hmm. And so he's and with the Foley we talked about a second ago, like making those sound effects with those little sound, those little tests or whatever, you're just messing around.
Yeah.
He developed the art of Foley before it was an established work.
Okay.
So he actually started doing it in a way where people realized that this is actually part of the profession. You can actually be just the Foley guy.
I see. It wasn't just an afterthought that, it was probably one of those intangible jobs that it was like, oh, they just kicked it to this guy, or the sound is just this guy.
Right.
And maybe it was an audio engineer who necessarily didn't really know about sound, and maybe didn't have a good ear for music, but definitely knew the wires and where they went.
Right, and then he could sit there and
know music, right? You're like, no, I run wires.
Yeah, I wonder what I can make that sound like. And what that can be used for.
Right.
Yeah. I forgot what movie it was, but there was a
an animal at a door actually.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Not. It's just a plastic trunk, everyone, and he's scratching his nails on it. Yeah.
So walking down a hallway with a wooden floor.
Yeah.
That is going to be recorded on set. Mm-hmm. And it might sound great. They might be able to use it. Chances are they're probably going to try some other aspects and see what can I make it sound like with. It's not going to be shoes though. They're going to be using other things to make it sound like that.
That's interesting. You told me a story, and I don't want to steal your thunder here, but dragging someone on a carpet.
Yeah.
If you actually drag someone on a carpet, it doesn't even sound like someone dragging on a carpet.
No.
So what are you going to do? Because now you have to do something to make it sound like something actually that it is, but it isn't. So it's weird. Right. But yet when you see that, you just know it's not right, so you have to go and find a different thing. What was the solution that they came up with?
I forget exactly what the solution was, but it was like taking like a mat and taking a razor blade or corduroy with like a razor blade and rubbing it across there.
Okay, like the sound of the scraping that sound.
Right. Something, and you just try things out. You're like, I wonder what this sounds like.
Right, like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Right.
When the burgers are flying down, they didn't get a burger, dip it in water, and hit the ground with it because that just doesn't sound like what they wanted to hear it.
Exactly.
So they got a mop, and they got it wet, and it went sploosh, and it had that nice sloppy, wet, impact.
Exactly.
But then you look at it, and then, so, it's weird, though. I don't think anyone has, crazy thoughts and then leaves a theater and goes, wait a second, reality doesn't sound like the movie I was in.
No.
And that's what we all know is we suspend our reality when we walk through those doors, frankly. I mean,
sure,
everyone knows
you
that.
should.
It's story time, ladies and gentlemen.
If the story is done well,
it's story time.
You get lost and hopefully you're not pointing things out to yourself like, oh, well, this looks fake.
That hamburger just sounded like a mop.
He did not have those glasses on in the last scene.
Yeah.
If you start, picking it apart.
I've done that,
I know, but hopefully the story is good enough where you don't even notice those things. You're not supposed to.
Right. So that's paradox number 2, because I said the first paradox is that we all work our butts off as a collaboration so that we don't even get noticed.
Right.
That's the first paradox in this world.
The director gets
the
the
second
notice,
paradox
the
is you have to give them something that they don't even know that they want.
There's that
and
too.
that's crazy.
Right.
So let's have a conversation. Okay. You ask me, say, hey, I'm a director. I want a burger sound.
So I need like a burger sound for a movie.
Cool. I got a wet mop for that.
Oh, okay.
And that sounds fucking insane. Oh, sorry, language. But yeah, you were like, you look at me like, are you insane?
Yeah, okay, really?
I need a burger sound, dude. And you expect me to say, oh yeah, I just got a burger on the floor, no problem.
But I could do that.
But what if I said, you see what I'm saying? So since you don't know what I do, you look at me like I have 3 heads.
Right. But if
and that's
anybody
paradox number 2.
Right. But if they know what they're doing, if they've been around the block a couple times, made a couple movies, they know that, okay, oh, hey, man, okay, cool, man.
Do your thing.
However, just make me a burger sound.
Right.
Whatever you do, man.
I have to go do something that's not even what it is. It's so it's unorthodox or something. I hate to call it a paradox.
But that's why they have other departments and other department heads to do the jobs. And however you do this is what I need. Right. This is what I need. It's not my job to walk you through what your job is supposed to be. Mm-hmm. My job is to tell you what I need from you, and then you got to figure it out. Mm-hmm. However it is. I don't care if you're standing on your head and doing push-ups with your teeth.
Yeah, right.
I don't care. I mean.
That's interesting.
I don't even know what that means.
That would sound really weird. Lots of grunting.
I'm not moving. Okay, so let's back up a little bit here. We're talking about Foley, and sometimes when you're doing just music in general, like for a score, you were saying earlier you have to like make the sound yourself. It kind of goes with Foley, right? You have to like, instead of trying to recreate something, like you were talking about how to do like cymbals.
Oh yeah, okay.
Right, and you can't try to recreate that without using the cymbals.
There you go. Great topic. Yeah.
So there's that part of it which goes along with Foley.
Right, and the old adage is, and maybe it's a new adage, I don't know, but 90%. The rule I go by, which I learned from other people, is you got to get 90% there with the source. And
what does that mean?
And what that means is you have to go and get the sound, what it is, and the best version of that sound of what it is at the very beginning, at the onset. Okay. So when you first start out, the first step, when you complete your first step, you should be 90% there to your goal.
Interesting.
And that's, so the 90%, Rob, wow, that's like almost done. You're like, And guess what the other 10% is? That's plugins, that's Pro Tools, that's editing, that's EQ. Mm-hmm. That's, basically polishing your dog turd. You can polish your dog turd, but that's only going to be a nice 10% polish on it. It's still a dog turd. That's what we're talking about exactly. Here. So that's the phrase, that's the kind of idiom we're in.
That goes along with screenplays. I feel that same way. You can relate that to the screenplay aspect. You can make a bad movie from a good screenplay, but you can't make a good movie from a bad screenplay.
It is. If you got a Casio tone keyboard, or maybe you're going for that, by the way, but if you want a grand piano sound, and you go to a Casio keyboard,
it's not going to sound.
I mean, there's no way in hell. Even you can plug it through a church reverb, cathedral reverb. You can do whatever you want to just try your hardest to EQ it. But if that source signal is a Casio,
that's what you get.
$10 Walmart keyboard. Not to rip Casios, actually. Casios are nice. So,
but the point is,
I'm saying the made in China Walmart keyboard that actually doesn't have a brand. They're so cheap. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but that's a good point.
90-10.
90-10.
90-10.
And then it's all the things that you have to like and then do yourself, like make those sound effects the real sound effect, that the real instruments, and that's what I think. And I can
give an example about that cymbal. I'll just tell you a little story here. It really sunk home for me because obviously a lot of things I've been learning the hard way, and I've been doing it for a while, and of course when you learn something new, and this is advice for everyone out there, don't try to say no to it right off the bat just because you have your tried and true thing. You're like, I don't want to go to my comfort zone. Oh no, and that's why we say no, right? Because fear, and we can get into a whole conversation this morning about fear and anyway,
dark times.
So don't be scared. Go say yes. Go into unexplored territory. Go explore.
That's where you test yourself, and that's where you find new things. Yeah, you can't create something new in a box. Yeah, you have to.
So what I was trying to do, and I wouldn't take the advice. I go, no, I got a cymbal sample right here. I was trying to for everyone. I was trying to do a crescendo cymbal. Okay, a rolling cymbal that kind of just kind of comes up. Like a rock ending to a song, the drummers, but I don't own a cymbal. So I'm like, well, I don't have to own a cymbal because I have cymbal samples. And I can
recreate it.
Yeah, I didn't know why my voice is like that. In the past, I used to talk weird. That was me being like Cartman or Sassy, like, yeah, I have a cymbal, yeah, and that's the voice you don't want to have, guys, when you're being a musician or you're being a sound designer or something, okay? You don't want to have this attitude of Cartman, like, I know everything, and you got to always be willing to try something new. Absolutely. And what I probably should have done is call up a drummer, or, hey, can I borrow a cymbal for a second, and then he would have probably taught me that mallets versus sticks have a completely different sound.
Right.
The mallets, guys, it looks like cotton balls on the end. They're softer. Yeah, softer attack. Right. See, now you know the words. So there's words that go along with all the sounds that we're talking about that we can convey. Is it a hard sound, a soft sound, a bright sound, a dull sound? These words have a little bit of emotion attached to them. Depends how you use them in a sentence.
Right. And again, depending on the correlate and the collaboration with the writer, director, and the sound person, right? It's all got to work together.
Right. And what I was doing is basically trying to just force this sample. I was trying to reverse it. I was trying to slow it down, speed it up. I was trying to EQ it. I was notch filtering. I was trying to cut and paste like 6 of them, going off at different times, and then do a volume curve so it sound crescendo-y. I think I spent 2.5 or 3 hours. I mean, really, in a perfect world, I can call my buddy up. He's over there in a half an hour. Boom, he bang it out. 45 minutes. He's on his way. I give him a $20 bill or something. I mean, just solve the problem.
But
I did it in the end. In the end, I was unhappy. And I was unhappy. So I wasted time and I was unhappy because I didn't know the 90-10 rule.
Okay.
Get your friend over. Get the cymbal. 90% there. 10%. Boom.
Is the other stuff. Yeah.
I was spending 90% of my time.
But you know what? That time you spent is well spent because you learn.
Yeah, I did learn.
Not by being someone telling you.
Yeah, I know how to audio edit.
I mean, me personally, everyone learns differently, but I learn more when I make mistakes than someone telling me not to make a mistake.
That's a whole podcast.
Right.
Failure. No,
exactly.
Mistake and failure is so important. I'm glad you said that.
Right. Because you got to.
I think a lot of people do that.
But you learn from it, right? I don't want to be told what I shouldn't do. My folks told me not to do things, and I still did them. That's not. You
learn for yourself. Yeah.
Right, and then you kind of take those and shapes who you are, and then you try not to make those same mistakes. If you do, then you know what you are.
Yeah.
But okay,
so anyway,
so let's take the Foley aspect here. We're talking about how someone like you got to make the sound yourself. You got to go out and do 90-10.
Right.
But then people like Ben Burt, making their own sound effects by just playing around. But let's go back to like the early mid '60s with the spaghetti westerns.
Okay.
And the use of different noises as opposed to your typical Western score.
You know what that is? That's an overlap between the bubbles, Jay. There's an overlap between because
a bubble thing,
the bubble chart is somewhere, right? In one circle, guys, we have sound design. Like
as you can see on the screen right now.
Yeah, okay. We'll put it on there. It's just like a 3 circle or even a 2 circle, but in the center where sound effects, gunshots, whips, wood blocks, whistles. Cowbells, not cowbells, church bells, ding, whatever sounds of things
that happen in that time frame.
I'm not talking Foley. I hear it. It sounds like a gunshot. It is a gunshot. This isn't like the burger and the mop situation. This is one for one. Sounds are being done in time, maybe in pitch too. You gotta wonder if they tuned some of those things. The bells you can probably tune.
Sure.
But he probably went through a few whips before he got the right whip that had the right sound.
Oh, it's not happened by chance. Sometimes it happens by accident. That works.
Well, sometimes you only have one freaking whip.
Right.
Okay. And so just a comment about historically, the spaghetti westerns were shot on a lower budget.
Sure enough.
They did not have the budget of Stagecoach and all these American counterparts who had orchestral scores of 15 cellos and 35 brass instruments. So they had to incorporate electric guitar. Ooh, electric guitar. Now you're talking about language, guys. Electric guitar, which is amazing, and made spaghetti westerns what they were. There was gunshots, there was whips, there was whistles. And it really supplemented or even replaced the big need for orchestral scores, and it ended up becoming its own thing. How cool is that?
Yeah.
I mean, spaghetti western is its own thing, and it is the coolest music, I think, in movies, really. I mean, it's just, when you say the word cool, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love sci-fi, that's a whole different word.
And there's great composers, John Williams and James Horner and all these other people who make great music, but
that twang,
something special about it.
I mean, there's something that's just like, I don't know.
I love it, but I love the fact that you're incorporating all these different sounds.
And those were sounds in music. The composer put the sounds in the music. I mean, there's other Nicolas Cage, or if there's other not Nicolas Cage. Anyway, there's Cage. There's a composer named Cage.
I know Nick Cave.
No, this is he's like an orchestral composer. He did sounds and like noises for like compositions and stuff.
Oh wow, okay.
Wasn't there one guy that recorded like all silence? The song was an hour of silence.
I don't know.
These avant-garde things. I don't know. I'm not a walking encyclopedia. Hey, Google it, everyone.
Yeah,
Maybe I'll Google it and pop it up.
Not right now,
sound
though.
smart.
Not right
I'm not
now.
trying to sound smart. I'm just trying to share my experiences with everyone.
Right.
Anyway.
But okay, so let's continue with the spaghetti western. This use of different sounds. You're right. It's not, but the sound effect of the gun is not happening on the screen. It's not representing a gunshot.
That's true.
You know,
yeah, that's right.
The songs are represented just it's
part of the music.
It's part of the music,
Yes.
right? The whip. There's no whip in the scene.
Yeah.
Right. There's no. Whoosh. It's just it's a part of the music, and it just adds something to it. Like I love those openings for all three of the Dollar Trilogy. Fistful, few dollars more, and obviously the Good, Bad, and the Ugly. And then he gets away from that a little bit with Once Upon a Time in the West. It's still the same musical composer, Ennio, but it doesn't have the same type of.
Was it recorded later?
Oh, yeah, 69 compared to like mid-60s.
I bet you the cash flow came in by that time.
Maybe.
See, because remember, case in point, one of our favorite things, you tell me, you make the sound, but I'll tell you what instrument it is. Lee Van Cleef, what's his little vibe, his little thing, when he turns around and winks at the camera kind of thing. I mean,
oh my God,
what's his little...
I don't
For
have
$3
it.
the second movie. It's like this little rubber band thing.
Right.
It's a juice harp, dude. It's a juice harp.
Okay.
It's $5.
Okay.
$10.
Just finding those little cool.
But that's all it is. It's like, they had a budget, but he was like, oh, fine, how about this? That sounds kind of funny, kind of tongue in cheek. You know, when he after he shoots his hat from long distance, you realize he's such a badass with the gun.
Right.
He turns around and you end the scene that way. It's just it's so fun.
It is, and it's good. It's good. It's good. Just in the music you were saying earlier, it's transcended time now. People are still inspired by it. It's used in music still. You still have people like Quentin Tarantino using Morricone in his movies, or using his previous movie, music. So it's still represented. It's almost like a cult thing, where people. Most people know about it without knowing anything about spaghetti westerns. I think the average person knows what spaghetti music sounds like.
I think so, yeah.
They know because it's kind of inherent in our pop culture now. We know it, but you might not know anything about spaghetti westerns. But you know that sound effect, that music.
It's just like when a song starts usually with drums and synth bass, like do 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 do. Or you're like, that's Michael Jackson, Billie Jean, or that's Flashlight, or there's all these songs that start with a synth bass. You're like, that's funk, that's 70s, 80s funk. I just know I'm gonna dance right now because it doesn't. I mean, tempo has a lot to do with it, but when you hear that sound, when you hear that synth bass sound, especially if it's got a filter on it, like something that's like totally funky, man.
That is very funky.
But anytime I hear synth bass, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna probably dance right now. So that's happening.
It's just emotional response.
Right,
like,
that's emotional response. That's in our pop culture. I think a lot of people feel that way too. When you hear the open thriller, anything, that bass line, that synth bass line, it's like,
it gets you going.
It gets you going.
Yeah. But you were touching on something earlier that I wanted to write down and I forgot to write it down. But it had to do with the spaghetti westerns, and we were talking about something earlier. Does it? It has something to do with spaghetti western music, and it's kind of like gone away right now. Like it's mentally not existent.
Oh, it's
like I'm reaching for it, but it's not
escaping.
there. It's escaping. I'll just talk about this instead since I can't think of it. My dad doesn't like spaghetti westerns. Big western fan.
Okay.
You know why?
Why?
One of it is that they're weird and they're kind of
a little
in your
weird.
face, but the sound effects.
Yeah.
Didn't like the sound effects
think it's
because the
cheesy.
gunshots didn't sound like real gunshots because of the echo without having anything to echo off of, or and there's a miss, but it actually hit them. The sounds didn't match in reality of what they should sound like. And my dad would always be the guy in a war movie saying, "Well, that's not the sound effect of that weapon.
Yeah,
that gun doesn't sound like that."
You know what? I watch like rock movies with like rock bands jamming and like kids like acting, and I'm like the same way.
Exactly,
but I don't let it ruin it. I'm just like, it's fine.
Right.
I know Sean Penn's not a jazz guitarist,
exactly.
but I like that movie.
Right, but you got.
And he did his damnedest to try to learn, though. He did really good.
That's when you appreciate
when the
it.
notes go higher, and he's still touching the fretboard. It's nothing stupid, like his hands just sitting there.
Right.
So and they're actors,
and
he's
good
a
ones
good
are going to
actor,
do
by
the
way.
they're going to
But
do
you're
the
right.
right
Spaghetti Western was very, like I said, it was low budget. I mean, it was very just like, hey, this is what it is, guys. I mean, I don't think they were planning on it being such an epic thing that stood up after 50 years.
I mean, George Lucas wanted to make Star Wars movies. He didn't know it was going to become this. No one has that, and everyone wants something to be successful. But making a movie, I think especially with someone like George Lucas, he's lucky that movie got made. Like with all, the fact that no one believed in it, the fact that the actors
the
and everyone
movie
making
was
fun
a
of
bomb
him
before that. I mean, he didn't have a lot going for him.
But everyone making that movie with him thought he was crazy. Like, this is not going to make it, man. Even his friends. Like Coppola and De Palma that he went to film school with, they were also like, I don't know, man. Spielberg was the only one that was like, yeah, buddy. Yeah, do it, man. This is great. Because he's like that positive guy, right? That's like, this is fantastic. You're going to love it. This is going to be great.
What did I just say about saying no and being negative?
Right. Right.
He's one of the most successful filmmakers on the planet of all time.
Right. He's probably
I've never met the guy. If you say that that's who he is, I would not question that. I'd say, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
He's very positive. And,
right. But that positivity, you have to have that. I mean, everyone was saying, even the actors and the people working on the set, they're all like, Blade Runner was the same way.
Yeah.
Ridley Scott's production of Blade Runner, the people hated him. The film crew hated him. They hated being on the set.
It didn't taste any much better when it kind of flopped at the box office because it got released the same summer as E.T. I mean, there's just
a great summer.
But anyway, that movie's held up. The point is, things that are old hold up over time, and they don't necessarily know it will at the onset, or at the launch of it.
Exactly, and that's the whole point. You don't think you're going to be making the next. Now if you're making the Lord of the Rings. Yes, you are attempting to make something epic. That's because it's about a book series that is very famous, right? Yeah. You're setting out to make something glorious, right? Now, if you're a filmmaker who's accredited, who's got the power, who can do what he wants to do, like the Ridley Scott's now. That after he had that period of having to fight for his way, right now he can do what he wants, and Spielberg can do what he wants, and they all have to fight the system at one point until they're big enough where they're the system. Yeah, right.
Yeah, where Heisenberg is like, I am the threat.
Exactly. I am the fear. I'm the one knocking on the door, bitch. So then you're shooting for the mountain. When any filmmaker making a movie, I think they're more glad that it's actually done, that they actually finished it, and it's a product that it's somewhat representing what they wanted to do. Because of all the things that can go wrong.
No kidding.
Sound effects not working the way you
said that earlier, too, about that teamwork. And I just recently, obviously, been working in this band temporarily. That it's 6 people, but we've had a couple practices, and so we're playing a show tonight, so it's like, okay. And that's 6 different attitudes, and it's already a little challenging. Just with 6 people I don't even know, and we haven't even worked very much.
Had they been working together before you got there?
A little bit, yeah. So there's that.
They have that familiarity.
True. I think you get that a lot with movies. I don't think it's a crack team of 60 total strangers.
Oh, no.
People are pulling people in because they tried and true.
They know who
music.
Can, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to go to a go-to guy. I call my first guy. It's going to be Jeff Lewis. It's going to be Jeff Brohart. It's going to be these musicians that I know are great musicians that probably know other great musicians. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's one reason why the film industry in Michigan didn't do what everyone was hoping it would. Because when they had it booming, before it was killed by the Tex, by our governor, we had a lot of film coming through, and they were bringing their people though. So even if you had, you could get a job through the union, but different positions, what have you. But if you wanted to get involved, you had to know somebody, unless you were in the union. Yeah. And then you'd be a camera operator, or the first AC, the second AC, stuff like that, the assistant cameraman. But they were bringing their own people. They were bringing their own crew because they're not going to just trust somebody from Detroit that they've never worked with to be the director of photography, to be their their assistant, or to be the first AD. Right. You need somebody that can do it. Not that they all have worked together, but they know about them. Like, I'm going to choose Chris as my first AD because I know some people have worked with them. They really like him. Right. He's very efficient. His movies are always on time and under budget. Let's use him. Yeah. Right? And then hopefully that works out. And then the next time, I'm bringing Chris back again.
That's right, because it worked out.
Right.
That's right.
And that's what, I wish I would have stayed in L.A. I wish I would have brought Tina with me at some point and just stayed out there because I was getting to know people. I was working with people. And they were bringing me into more projects. As soon as they saw my work ethic and I was hungry and I was energized.
You got that Midwest attitude. Right. See, I've been told that too a lot of times. I need to take my talent out to the West Coast. I'm not moving now, but it's just that was
at that time.
Yeah, that was a juncture and a sliding door that could have slid still the other way. But that's how you do it. You get networked. You absolutely get networked.
And I think I still would be working within movies and making some sort of a living. Making a paycheck out of movies. And I went out there for that purpose. I came back here, and then I realized they were bringing everyone with them. I'm like, well, at least I got 1 or 2 jobs because I knew the people. Because of that connection, whatever.
But that's important. You got to get your crew together, and the tried and true crew. Well, the thing is, Jay, what we talk about is a lot of theory. We talk about pie in the sky, and this is all just really these conversations are just like you should do this, or this is a review of this. This is how you do this. But really, the missing element, and even as we look at time, we just don't care. We have all these open-ended conversations we just spend time on. Right. And that's not the case with movies. Nope. It's $1 million a day. Time is money. Quick. And nothing stifles my creativity more than when someone says, all right, go, time's running, come on. And I'm like, dude, chill out, I'm trying to think here, you know? I can't believe that people are trying to be creative, like, under the gun, and under the money, and under the knife. Like, actually, we're going to get rid of you on this project if you don't deliver. Right. And then, you talk about the pressure's on. Yeah. And you can barely make rent in L.A. So you're like, okay, well, let me go ahead and try it. Oh, God, I really need this job, and it's like, oh, good luck. I hope you don't have any personal issues because you're going to...
Exactly. You're on this for the next 24 days, every day, for all day. Yeah. Think of... like a writer on set has to rework scenes every day and rewrite stuff because they're changing things on you every day. It happens all the time. And usually a writer is brought on board to keep writing.
I can't believe it I'm gonna check transient. It's so shape-shifting, like a moving target. Or what they call it. It's just like
because you say you have so many things that can go wrong or so many things that can go right in different ways. Where it's like, well, we don't have access to snow melted. So now we can't shoot these outside.
True. It's not a rainy day. We can't do a rainy day shoot.
So we can postpone it, lose money, or we can just wait for this, or we can find another way around it.
Write it differently.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if you can.
Right.
If you can.
Yeah, you can't
If everything else has been shot in the snow, then you can't. But if you can go back and you can look at the script and say, all right, well, let's figure out how can we change that.
Maybe this fight sequence can happen in a gymnasium.
Right. Like how do we work that into a different... Now the writer goes back and reworks things to make things fit over here. Now we change the location, but we have to change all these other things.
These plot points now because
because now it goes to the gymnasium. You have to make sure you get to the gymnasium. You got to make sure you get out. So you have all these different standpoints.
And then not just change it, but make it good. I mean, anyone can change anything. Right. I mean, you've done that, like an improv class. Like you do a story.
No, I've never done an improv class.
Oh, it's really fun. You do like a story. It's just a simple exercise.
I'm not good on the spot, so I don't.
Okay, but you just make it. And a lot of people aren't. Some people say they'll add just one sentence and pass it on. It's like freeze tag, like so and so. Anyway, I was in the woods, and then you tag a person and said, because I'm a used car salesman, and then you see how bad you can twist the story. It's a fun little game.
Oh, right on.
That keeps your mind thinking.
Yeah.
So anyone can do that,
right?
But can you make it good?
Exactly.
Because I think that's why you end up with shitty movies and you end up with shitty screenplays is because it changed so much on the fly and everyone just wanted to get done with it and we were already over budget. That guess what? It's a 6 out of 10 on Rotten Tomatoes now.
Right.
Oh well.
Right. Yeah. It's as I say, most when they're done and they're done right and it's what the filmmaker wanted to do. That's great. But you ever see The Room? The cult classic, The Room. It's something that you probably have never seen. Maybe even heard about it. It's a movie by Tommy Wiseau. He was a guy who had unprecedented amount of money. He just bottomed his hole of money. He wanted to make movies. And the Disaster Artist with Seth Rogen or
James Franco. It was based on that. That's him.
Yeah.
Okay, so he just had a bunch of money and just not really much.
And he doesn't know what he's doing, but he's just doing it. And at the end, he was making a serious movie. And then when he showed it to a crowd for the first time, after about 15, 20 minutes in, everyone started laughing and kept laughing and kept laughing and cheered and roared with laughter. And he's all pissed off. And he's like, what are they laughing at? And he walks up on the stage at the end and he's like, oh, I hope you liked the movie that I did, made it funny intentionally. Yes, and he flipped it. Like
he owned it.
Yeah, I made this funny. I hope. Yeah, exactly. But
you got to own it. Actually,
I made this really funny. I hope you really liked it.
Yeah,
this was my intent. Is that you're laughing?
Yeah,
this was my intent.
Yeah. Oh my gosh! I hope I don't do that in the bass solo tonight.
You won't.
Hey, I messed up on purpose. Look how dumb I am. Wah, wah, wah.
Own it. Exactly.
I should. I smile a lot when I play.
Hey man, if you own it, people will forgive anything,
That's
man.
True.
If people make mistakes, especially in live, I make mistakes every damn day. All right, everybody. Thank you for listening. We'll finish up this conversation in part 2 of Sound Design. Coming soon.